Okay, we are live. Hey, this is Sarah from theharmoniousduo.com. As you can see, Brandon is not with me today. He is out running a few errands for the business. So I am here doing solo today. But first off, I wanted to apologize for, the fact that this is getting started a little bit later than usual. I just wanted to thank you for sticking through and waiting for us to go live. We were experiencing some really weird tech issues with Google Plus streaming our Hangout for you. So with that being said, all the tech issues are resolved. We are now live. We can continue today's conversation. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, today our goal was to have a conversation about, making a solid first impression. So often when, we hear the term, it's really important to make a good first impression. Anytime you're going to meet someone new, you think, well, what can I do to make a good first impression? When you're going in for a job interview, you're definitely thinking, what do I got to do to make a good first impression so that they're more inclined to hire me? Whenever you're going on a date, right? And it's your first date of girls, you ladies, I know you know what I'm saying, what I'm telling, that you spend all day thinking what you can, maybe not using those exact words of making a good first impression, but, you're spending all day wondering how, you can basically make a good first impression so that the person you're dating, if you guys are attracted to each other, he'll come back, right? Well, that's the process I wanted to talk to you guys about today, is how to make a solid first impression online. A lot of people have been coming to us and they've been asking us, they're like, Sarah, Brandon, it feels like no matter what I do, people just aren't listening to me. They're not taking advantage of the advice that I'm sharing that I know will work for them. I've got all this value. I did all this research to find out what their challenges were so I could help them solve that challenge, but it just feels like no one's listening to me. How do I get people to listen to me? And truth be told, for those of you who are joining us and you don't know anything about my background or Brandon's background, just to kind of give you a little insight, so you know who we are and what you're dealing with here, is we didn't have any experience when we came online, like none whatsoever. I think the only experience I had with online was like email, social media, Googling, just like the basic stuff that most people use the internet for. And so, whenever we made that shift to coming online, was it about like 18 months ago now, the concept was very different, right? As I'm sure, if you've made that transition to, using the internet to help put you on the path to success with helping you change the direction of your life, then, I'm sure you can relate to the fact that it's, interesting. It's an interesting journey. And so today I thought it would be really beneficial, be really valuable if, we could, since I'm going solo, if I could share with you some really important value to help you see the benefit in making a solid first impression for whatever it is you're doing online. If you're attempting to build awareness for a cause that you're really dedicated to a hobby, a passion, or maybe you're on here and you want to build, you came online so that you could build a business, right, to help you really put yourself on the path to success so that you could step one step closer towards the life that, you've wanted to live on your own terms for however long you've been wanting to live that life now. It's really incredibly important that you continue to make a solid first impression. And, to be honest with you guys, like in full transparency, about the first 12 months of our business, we were not making a good first impression at all. Let me give you a little bit of a backstory. I remember growing up in East Texas, this super, super small town in Broadus, Texas, to be exact. I think, let's just say it was so small that it was considered a family vacation for us to drive 2 hours on the weekends to go to the nearest Walmart. Yeah, really small. And I remember when I was about 8 or 9 years old, it was the summer before I was going to go into 4th grade. And when my family told me that we were moving from our small town in East Texas to the big city, we were going to move to Houston. And I was completely terrified, right? I was shaking, because here I am, this little country girl going to the big city. And I was just terrified, like, well, what are the kids going to think of me? Am I even going to like this school? Am I going to like where I live? I love, the house that I'm living in now. I don't want to go, how most kids are when they move, like they just don't want to move. And I remember it was the first day of school. I was just about to start my first day of fourth grade at a brand new school where I had no friends. I knew no one. I hadn't even gotten to meet my teachers or anything. So it was like, I was meeting everybody for the very first time at the same time. And it was very jarring, and especially because my sister, she was a year older than me. She was going into fifth grade. But, older siblings, they want like nothing to do with their younger siblings when they go to the same school. And so Lauren kind of went off and did her own thing. And it didn't really seem to phase her as much as me. But I remember vividly that there was this one moment before we left where my mom, she looked at me and she smiled and she said, "Sara, make a good first impression." And I thought to myself, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, I hear you guys say that all the time. What does that mean? I'm 8 or, I'm like 8, 9 years old. I have no idea what that meant. And, so of course, when I went to school, all of like my worst fears came true. And it was a very interesting first day experience. We'll just put it that way. And so needless to say, if I was to look back on it now, I did not make a good first impression, right? Because I was getting picked on, I was getting teased, I was getting bullied for my country accent. And, it was to the point where it was so bad that I just stopped talking altogether, right? I not only stopped talking, like I wouldn't answer my teachers in the classroom, and I kept getting in trouble for that. And the kids were making fun of me to the extent where I stayed quiet for so long for the sole purpose of learning how, my new classmates communicated, right? How they sounded, so I could teach myself how to mimic the way they sounded without my accent, which is why you don't really hear it much anymore now, because I trained myself for so many years to speak without it that, now it really only comes out when I'm getting very passionate about something I'm talking about. And, so just growing up, I just remember every time I was experiencing something new, every time I was experiencing, whether it was, like I said, a job interview, or I was meeting someone for the first time, I was going on a date, just anytime I was putting myself in a new environment that put me around new people, I always remember what my mom said, which was make a good first impression. And of course, as I got older, right, I began to kind of understand what she meant by that. And then, of course, I started to see the value in making a good first impression, because when I first started going out for interviews for jobs when I was about 15 years old, I knew I had to make a good first impression on my potential boss so that I could set myself apart from the other applicants so I could get the job and I could work at that facility that I was applying at over, everybody else. It was the same thing for every other aspect of my life. You have to make a good first impression. And I remember when, fast forward a few years, now I'm with Brandon, and we've been together for some time. Our daughter was, I think she was like, just a little over a year old whenever we came across this opportunity. And what happened was we were at a point in our life where, we knew that something had to change, because we were very dedicated to having a strong family unit. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom who helped raise our children and was just there for them, because it was very important, especially in the first 5 years of their lives, that the parents are very present, right? Because that's when the children learn the absolute most, in their first 5 years. And, just getting to experience what it was like when I was younger to have my mom home for us for as long as she was, and just being there to see us off to school, being there whenever we got home, and just helping us with our homework, and just it's feeling like she was literally always there, that affected me greatly, and like in a positive manner, of course. And so I knew that whenever I wanted to have kids, that's what I wanted as well. The sucky part about that is, I'm sure many of you out here can relate, is the fact that if you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home parent, that typically means only one of you is bringing in the income, and all of that financial burden falls on the shoulders of your partner. And that's what was happening with Brandon. At the time, he was a poker player. So all of our income was dependent on how well he did at the poker tables. Not good. It was not dependable. I mean, whenever he would have winning streaks, it was great. We had, it was a great lifestyle before we had Savannah. But having Savannah, it was a total paradigm shift, because we realized that Brandon could not be a present parent. He was gone anywhere between 10 to sometimes 18 hours a day playing at these poker tables, attempting to bring home income. And we realized that, the whole reason why we weren't going out and looking for jobs was so that we could both find something that fit the vision we saw for ourselves, which was that we were both home with our daughter, building a really strong, solid family unit. But here he is being taken away for sometimes 18 hours a day, like sometimes 6 to 7 days a week. And it got to a point where, things were getting very bad with the poker playing. He just seemed to have a dry run after dry run, which basically just means every time he was going to the table, he would either come back with, no money, or he'd come back, with like negative, right? And it kind of compounded on us, right? And we had just hit this wall where we were, where we were saying to each other, what do we do? What do we do? We can't live like this anymore. I want you here with me raising our daughter. And I know that you want to be here with me raising our daughter. So what can we do to make this happen? Because, I personally was, I saw my fiance struggling so much with the burden that was coming from being the sole provider of the income for our house in the manner in which he was. And there were many nights where, I'll be totally honest, I would cry myself to sleep, like very quietly underneath the covers, because I was thinking to myself that, oh my God, like am I going to have to break the promise I made to Savannah about never having to put her in daycare just so I can go get a job to help out with the finances? Like, that's where things were for us, guys. It was really intense. And when this opportunity came for us to come online and start building a business online, we talked about it and we realized, like, this is exactly what was going to give us the lifestyle we wanted. This was what was going to give us the ability to live life on our terms, for us to be fully present parents with our daughter, getting to do what we wanted with our family when we wanted to do it, without having to worry about how we're going to pay the bills. Are we even going to be able to pay the rent this month? Are we going to be able to pay for our car insurance this month? We wanted to put ourselves in a lifestyle where that thought didn't cross our mind. So when we came online, the funny thing is, all those years of my mother telling me, Sarah, make a good first impression, kind of just like fell by the wayside when we got online. In the first 12 months, that we were not making a good first impression. Right? So today I wanted to share with you some of the few things you can do when you're coming online to make a good first impression, to where you can stay connected to the audience that you're attempting to reach out and resonate with. But most importantly, how to make a good first solid impression, to where not only are you staying connected with your audience, but you're getting them to listen to you. You're getting them to engage with you. You're getting them to listen to you, to do what it is you're directing them to do. Now, if you're coming online so that you can build a business, what I'm going to share with you today is going to be extremely beneficial to you, because of the fact that it can put you in a position to where when people listen to you, they're essentially going to be listening to you to purchase your products, your services, or whatever it is that you're selling. Now, you can still apply these tips if you are wanting to come online just to build awareness towards a passion or a cause or a hobby that you're dedicated to. These will still work for that as well. So one of the first things when you come online is getting a blog. Okay, now you hear us talk about this all the time, is getting a blog, because your blog is like your online hub. It's your home on the internet, right? And so whenever you build a home on the internet, this is the safe place for you to constantly provide value and information that can solve your audience's challenges, right? So say, for example, you want to come online so that you can build your health business. Okay, so assuming that you take your business seriously, you're going to do research and you're going to find out the common themes or the common struggles that your audience deals with on a day-to-day basis. And you do that specifically so that you can figure out how to solve those challenges, how to solve those struggles that they're dealing with, so that you can help them become a healthier version of themselves, right? I would assume that's what your goal would be. Now, if you want people to listen to you, one of the best ways you can do that can get people to listen to you, that can help you stay connected with your readers, with your audience, with the people you're attempting to attract, and get them to do what you want them to do, is by providing this valuable information on your blog. But see, where we were going wrong and where we realized many people go wrong with using a blog to build their business or their passion, cause, or hobby, whatever, is the fact that you're not taking advantage of your introduction, okay? Your introduction on your blog posts, is the exact same as an introduction to a new person you're meeting for the very first time. And 10 to 1, it's very difficult whenever you just flub an introduction to a new person so badly that you can recover from it, later down the road. You'll always be remembered as that guy, And so when it comes to attempting to make a good, solid impression online so that you can get connected to your readers, so that you can get connected to that audience you're attempting to attract and get them to do what you want them to do, it all starts with your introduction. Your introduction is like your handshake, okay? So some of the things that you can do when creating your blog posts, when creating your blog, and sharing the valuable information that you're going to share that can help solve a challenge that you're addressing for your audience for that day, is to remember that your audience has a very short attention span. So when you can get them to come and read your blog post, to read the information that you have to share with them that is of so much value and benefit, that this is exactly what they need for this time in their lives, you've got to remember that the introduction is what's going to make or break their attention span. You've got about 7 to 9 seconds on average to either keep your customer or your potential customer on your blog, or to lose them, right? So what can we do to ensure that our introduction, our online handshake, is firm enough, right, to where they remember us, to where they are like, hey, I like what I'm reading, I want to read more. What can we do? Right? How can we go about, solidifying that introduction? Well, recently we went to a blogging workshop with Neil Patel. This was back in January of this year, 2015. And he told us some really amazing tips that, to be honest with you, whenever we heard these tips, Brandon and I looked at each other and we both got the same, light bulb. And we looked at each other and we were like, holy shit, this is exactly why things aren't working for us right now. This is a huge piece of the puzzle as to why things like, we weren't connecting with our readers as much as we wanted, to where they were listening to us the way that we had, hoped for them to do, so that we could get them eventually to feel comfortable enough to purchase our products and our services that could be of beneficial value to their lives, right? And so whenever we came across these tips, we were just like, oh my gosh, this is like one of the puzzle pieces we need. I get it. I finally get it. Okay, so let's get to work. Let's use these tips. Let's put them together, and let's start connecting with our readers so that they will listen to us. Because if readers, your audience, guys, they're not going to connect with you. They're not going to listen to you if they don't feel connected to you. And what happens is, a lot of times whenever we start writing our blogs to share the value and information that we have to share with them, is we forget that we're still having a conversation with our reader. Right? We focus so hard on putting out quality content, on putting out the information that our audience needs to help them overcome a certain challenge, that we forget that we're still speaking to another person. And no person likes to be spoken, at. They like to be spoken with. Does that make sense? So one of the tips that Neil Patel gave us that you can use within your introduction to help maintain that conversation feel, to where the reader feels comfortable with moving forward, is to use the words you and I throughout your introduction. because using you and I can, as far as the internet goes, it really helps string in that conversation feel to where the reader doesn't feel as though, when they're scrolling through your post, like you're just talking at them versus talking with them. And that goes a long way with getting your audience to feel connected with you, which can ultimately help them, encourage them to listen to you. Okay, so remember, in your introduction, use words you and I. Another tip that was given to us that is very helpful is when you start your blog, remember to start your blog with a question, right? So think of the topic of discussion that you're sharing in that particular post and ask yourself, what is a good question, right? That can start off this conversation with a bang, that can start off this conversation to where it's going to immediately grab their attention and let them know this is what they're here for. Think of a good solid question and use that as as part of your open in your introduction. So as soon as they open your post, the first thing they're hit with is bam, your question. Because that question, when you ask it on, when you're typing it online, your reader, when they're reading it, is saying it in their mind. So if you can get your reader to say the question to themselves that you want them to think about, they'll actually think about it. And if you can get them to think about it, you can keep their attention enough to where it intrigues them to want to know more. Okay, so tip number 1, use the words you and I to make your blog post feel like a conversation. And tip number 2 is to, I'm sorry, I just blanked out. What was I just talking about? Oh, and tip number 2 is to make sure that you start off with a question. Wow, sorry guys. Okay, so another one is making sure that that your introduction is about 3 paragraphs long. Okay, you don't really want more than 3 paragraphs long. At least that's what was recommended to us by Neil Patel. And he said to make sure that each paragraph is about 3 to 4 lines, 6 at the absolute max. Okay. Now, the reason for that is because the purpose of your introduction is to be used as a narrative, right? Not an explanation. A big reason why Brandon and I weren't succeeding in, building that solid connection with our readers and putting us on the path to success, getting them to listen to us the way that we needed and would have liked for them to listen to us, is the fact that we weren't using our introduction as a narrative, right? We were trying to explain so much in the introduction to entice the reader to read our blog. And we basically were just doing the formula all backwards. And we lost a lot of our readers. Like, they didn't feel connected with us because they kind of felt overwhelmed, because it would be kind of the same as if I was to come up to you, I'm meeting you for the first time in a physical face-to-face conversation. And as soon as I shake your hand, I just like verbally throw up on you, right? I'm just throwing all of this explanation and stuff and details at you. And you're kind of like, whoa, you lost me. Like, I need you to back up. I feel like I need some space from this conversation already because it's just too much to handle. And so that's something to keep in mind, is that your introduction is meant to be a narrative. You're supposed to insert a little bit of your story, a little bit of your background. You want to be able to use this narrative space so that you can help build put that building block in place to build a relationship with your reader. And then as the blog continues, that is when you basically solidify that whole relationship. So by the time they start and finish, you've connected with the reader to where now they feel like they should listen to you, because not only did they connect with you and they resonated with you, but you shared some really awesome value to the exact challenge they were looking to solve. So not only do they now like you, but they trust you, and they start to feel like they know you. And if you can get people to know you, like you, and trust you, that's when you get people to listen to you. And if you can get people to listen to you, then ultimately you can get people to do whatever you want them to do, whether it's to purchase a product, to start a trial membership, to click the next blog post, or to download whatever, you know what I mean? So that's another good tip, is remember that the intro is your narrative. Okay, so we have use the words you and I so that you can start a conversation. Make sure that you're using your introduction with like a strong, solid question related to the topic. Like, for example, let's see. Okay, so we'll go back to like the health example. So we'll say that, your goal is to provide information to people who are looking to become healthier, and you have a product that can help people do that, right? So you're addressing, let's say that you're addressing the issue of, what's a health issue? Okay, well, this one's a bit out there, but it kind of gives you the idea of what I mean. So if you are addressing the issue of obesity, okay, now I'm not saying this is exactly what you want to go with, but you should be able to get the idea. You want to open with a big, strong question along the lines of, are you sick and tired of struggling with being morbidly obese? Right? That's a strong question. That if I was morbidly obese, I'd say, damn, yeah, I am. I mean, it might sting a little bit, right? It might sound a bit abrasive. And of course you can tweak that and, fit that to your personality. You don't have to use that exact example, but you get the idea. Like, it's a pow in your face question that forces me as the reader to be like, oh my God, yeah, I am tired of being obese. I hate being fat. And then it gets me to think about everything I've done up until this point to attempt to be healthy that has failed for me so far. Okay, so it's kind of like a polarity. While it intrigues me to move forward with the conversation in your blog, it also gets me to think about everything I've attempted so far. So while I'm thinking of everything I've attempted so far that hasn't worked for me because of this one question, at the same time, I'm now more enticed to see what you have to offer that makes it different than everything else I've tried before. Does that make sense? So we got use, a solid question. And then another one is to make sure that you're using a narrative, right? Sharing a little bit about your story so that you can build an instant bit of relationship in your narrative, so that whenever people get to that part of your introduction, they feel comfortable, like they're talking to a real human being, like they're not being talked at, they're being talked with. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I can feel a little bit more comfortable moving forward because so-and-so, they can relate to what I'm going through. They can relate to my experience. And so, okay, well, let's see what they have to say. Right? The whole purpose of your introduction which is your handshake, right? Your first impression is to basically show the benefits the reader is going to get by continuing to read your information. So while you want to take the tips I just shared with you, you want to keep in mind that you need to address, why that reader is here, what you're going to share with them, and why continuing on with reading your post is going to help them solve their challenge if they take action on what you're sharing with them. That all is what makes a solid first impression to your reader that can help you connect with them. Because remember, our ultimate goal is getting our readers to listen to us so we can incentivize them to do what it is that we would like them to do by X, Y, or Z. Okay? So, I know it's like the technical aspect as far as making a good first impression. And it's really important for you to recognize the opportunity you have here. You see, now if you're on here and, and you've been blogging and you've been asking, how do I connect with my readers? Like, what do I need to do to connect with my readers? Because I just feel like something's missing. I feel like we're not gelling. I feel like, like we're just kind of like this. We're not in sync. We keep missing each other. You know what I mean? And one of the reasons for that is because you're not making a solid first impression. And the beautiful thing, see, what most people misunderstand with blogging is that every single post you make is a brand new opportunity to create a new first impression. Like, how cool is that? How many other opportunities do you have to create a brand new first impression over and over and over again with the same audience? Not many that I know of. And the cool part about it is that because you're blogging about information that your audience is looking for, they're automatically going to look at you a little bit higher, with a little bit more authority, because you have information they don't have that they want access to. So in their mind, they're looking at you like, this person's got their stuff together. This person knows what they're talking about. Maybe I should listen to them. And that's when they click on your post. And that's when they get your first handshake with your introduction. And that's when they make the decision to connect with you. And that's when you get them to listen to you. Does this make sense? I hope this makes sense. If not, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Facebook or something, and, we'll continue this. But another thing that's really important in terms of making your introductions work for you online, making that solid impression, is knowing your story. If you've been on our Hangouts before, then you've heard Brandon and I talk all the time about the power of your story, that the purpose of a blog is that you can share stories, no matter what you're blogging about, no matter what kind of business you're building for yourself, no matter, what kind of passion or cause or hobby you're trying to bring awareness to. Everything revolves around stories, because stories is what everyone can relate to, no matter the difference in experiences, because there's always underlying themes that every human being in the world goes through that's the same. Now, the actual experience may be different, but what we connect with, what we resonate with, what we feel, related to is the underlying theme within the stories. That's why if you look at, the Bible, it's nothing but stories. And the reason for that is because, Jesus was obviously smart enough to know that people, in order for a large group of people to resonate with the same message, you had to connect, you had to build that bridge through a story with an underlying theme that everyone could relate to, that everyone could resonate with, despite the actual experience that they had with that theme. Does that make sense? Like you and I, we could obviously relate to struggles, right? Now, your type of struggle in your life right now might be very different than my type of struggle that I'm going through right now, or that I've been through. But the point where we come together is the fact that if we're listening to a story or reading a story about struggle and the cause that struggle had on the person sharing that story, like the effects that came with it, you and I, even though we've had a different version of the experience, we can both come to terms and relate on the same factors of the effects that struggle had, because you and I both went through a struggle as well. This is why the power of your story is so important. It doesn't matter how great your product is. It doesn't matter how great your cause is or your services you provide or anything like that. It all boils down to your story. What's your story? Are you telling it? Do you even know your story? And by story, I don't mean like, here, let me tell you how our product was created. Here, let me tell you how, how we decided to produce this service. No, I'm talking about you. How did you come to where you are right now, to where you came to a realization that something needed to change in your life, and that something caused you to create a vision that you were passionate about, enough to the point where you felt it was something you should pursue and bring it to the masses? What's your story? How did you get there? Where did you come from? Where have you been? Where are you going? What do you see for the future? Can what you see for the future, is it big enough to where even though I may have my own vision, is your dream for the future big enough to where I can come in and share my vision, and your dream be big enough to help me create mine at the same time? This is all encompassing in your story. Everyone has a story. And, in total transparency, I struggled with my story for such a long time, because I thought to myself, like, I'm nobody special. Who's going to listen to me? Like, I'm not wild, right? Well, Brandon says I'm crazy, but of course I don't think I'm crazy, but I'm thinking to myself, I'm not wild. I'm not crazy. I haven't had like tons of adventures. At the time that we started our business, I was thinking to myself, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Like, who would want to listen to me? What do I have to share that is so important? And I struggled with this issue for a long time. And no matter how good we were getting with our introductions in our blogs, no matter how good we were getting with matching our content to the challenges our readers were suffering from, we still weren't going to get people to connect with us and resonate with us, because I wasn't sharing our story because I didn't even see the value in my own story. And this is something I know many of you can relate to, because I've had many of you reach out to me and say that I don't have a story. I don't know my story. Like, what do you mean? I'm just so-and-so from the middle of nowhere. Like, I haven't done anything with my life. Who's going to listen to me? And see, this is a big revelation I want you to have, is that you do have a story. Every single one of you, and it's unique, because you are the only you that this world has. So you have a perspective, no matter how similar it may seem to other people, that is 100% completely unique to you. Because again, you are the only you there is. Your story matches your unique perspective. And the second that you can tap into and accept that you have a powerful story just waiting to be unleashed, that can help thousands and thousands of people come and relate together and bring people together, the whole concept of getting them to buy from you kind of goes out the window, because you'll realize that if you can bring people together and realize and have them realize, like, oh my gosh, like, this person, I can totally relate to them. Like, that's my story. When you can share your story and have your readers come back at you and say, I feel like I was reading a version of my own story. I feel like I know exactly who you are, because like everything I just read about you feels exactly like what's happened to me. And because I see that you have been able to overcome your challenges, your struggles, and you were able to make something different for yourself, and you were able to step into your power, then I know that I can do the same. That's what you hold in your hands, guys. If you want people to connect with you, if you want to know how to, if you've been asking how to connect with my readers, that's where you start. You start with your story. You start with your why. Where have you been? Where are you headed? Think about these things. And I know that it's very difficult to come up with your story. And I'm not saying to lie about your story. I'm not saying to, fabricate details. But we all have our own perspective of our story based off of, the fact that we're seeing it through our own eyes. And so the reason why coming up with your story is so difficult, and I can speak to this from personal experience, is because of what a good new friend of mine says. He says, the reason why your story is so difficult for you to grasp, for you to create, is because in order to create your story, that means you have to come face to face with yourself. That means you have to come face to face with the reality of your life up until this point. You literally have to look in a mirror, look at yourself, and repeat what you've been through. And if you've been through some traumatic stuff, this can be really difficult. Trust me, I know. But the beautiful part about it is when you start relaying the things that you've been through in your life up until this point, yes, you will have to encounter all of the difficult times that you've been through, all of the struggles you've endured, all of the painful memories that maybe you've kind of kept in the back of your memory closet. But at the same time, you also get to remember how you were able to tap into this internal power you have to overcome each of those challenges. And then you get to see that, while you may have a big list of challenges and struggles that you overcame, or that you had to deal with, and it seems like it's a lot, it seems like it's heavy, you also have an entire side of outcomes that show you, mark by mark, how badass you are and how strong you are. Because for every challenge that you had to deal with, you ended up becoming twice the person you were prior to that challenge, because that challenge was designed, no matter how painful it was or how embarrassing it may have been for you, it was designed to help you step into a version of yourself that was just a little bit better than you were before. And every time you do that, you become more powerful. You become more unique. You become more you. And I know this from experience. It can be done. And it is incredibly powerful. Not to mention, really cool when you can remember that, damn, like I did all of that. Okay, I'm pretty cool. You know, I'm not saying for you to think that you're better than anyone, but I'm saying the power of you being able to connect with people and getting them to listen to you revolves around you being able to recognize your own value and your own power. And in order to do that, you've got to start with your story. Now, we're not experts at this, okay? We're not, Brent and I are in no means like story creating experts, but we were able to come across something that helped us with realizing we needed, in order for us to have this ultimate outcome of getting people to listen to us so we could connect with people and get them to do what it is we were directing them to do, that we needed to come face to face with ourselves. We needed to come face to face with our story, and we needed to be vulnerable. We needed to share our story, because our story, no matter how challenging or invaluable we may feel it is, it's valuable to the reader. It's valuable to the person on the other end of that computer screen who thinks that they don't have the power in themselves to do what to do what they need to do to overcome whatever challenge they have right now. You're their voice. And when you realize that there's power in your voice, you realize that you can make a solid first impression online no matter what you're doing, because you know in your heart and in your mind and in your soul that you are sharing a voice, not just for yourself, but for the thousands of other people out there in the world who feel that they don't have a voice for themselves. And that's power. But they're never going to be able to experience relating to you and listening to you and connecting with you if you don't make a good first impression by learning how to share your story and using the tips I shared with, being technical about it in your introduction in your blogs. Now, you've been wondering, how can I connect with my readers? Well, it starts with a good solid introduction by asking a question, using the words you and I so that you can make the entire post feel like a conversation, and using your introduction as a narrative, right, to help people feel related to you and to show them the overall benefits that they're going to get by continuing to read your information. That's your first impression. And you get to make a new one every single time that you create a blog post. How cool is that? Now, if that's the challenge you're dealing with, the good news is I just gave you actionable information that you can take today as soon as we're done to help you put yourself on the path to success by connecting more with your readers and getting them to listen to you and being able to get the results that you're attempting to get from whatever it is that you're doing, building a business, sharing, a passion, a cause, whatever. So how do you do that? Okay, now if you somehow landed on our hangout and you don't have a blog yet because, maybe you've been teetering with the idea of it, but you thought maybe it was too technical, maybe it's not for you, you're, a little intimidated by all the things you think a blog is supposed to do, or maybe you're a little confused on I'm not a computer person, so I don't know how I'd be able to do it. Well, guess what? You have the opportunity right now to take advantage of an incredibly unique offer. Over to, if you're watching us on Google+, you'll see opportunities over to the right of your screen, where the top one will be where you can access the exact same blogging platform we use for our business today. And you get a 7-day trial for $9 to test out our blog. You get to see that it is completely done for you, right? So none of that technical stuff is required here. You don't have to know coding. You don't have to know HTML. You don't have to know how to really navigate much of anywhere, because we take care of all of that stuff for you. You can be up and running in as little as 10 minutes on your way to producing valuable content to people who need exactly what you have to share. And you can do that by taking advantage of the trial offer. Now, of course, with this offer, not only do you get an entire week to set up a blog for yourself, see how it'll work for you, and get the opportunity to start building an audience if you don't have one yet, but you also get access to work directly with Brandon and I. So it's not that you're just getting a blog, you're getting a done for you blog. That's a safe place for you to monetize your content, meaning you can make money off the information you're sharing. And most importantly, you get access to a one-of-a-kind tech support staff that if you're ever having issues, you have access to these guys. And I'm telling you, they're amazing. They will help you solve whatever problem you have. But most importantly, you get the opportunity to work directly with Brandon and I to where we can help put you on the path to the success of living a lifestyle that's on your terms. So whatever your dream is, whatever your vision is, you get help on the other side. You get to come in knowing that there's going to be people who are ready to work with you to help you succeed in whatever it is you're attempting to do. And you get all of that for a trial price of $9 for 7 days. Okay. Now, if you would like help with crafting your story, right? Maybe your struggle here is that you have a blog, but you have no idea how to create your story in a way that can get people to connect with you and listen to you, then you want to take advantage of the opportunity that Brandon and I did just very recently. And that one is towards the bottom right. And that's the epic story funnel. This is where we learned how to come face to face with ourselves, how to come face to face with our story and not create in terms of fabricate a story that's not true, but for us to tap into and see the power of our story and put it in front of our audience in a way that will resonate with them and bring more people together. It's insanely powerful. Like we would not ever recommend something to you guys that we did not feel 110% that this will bring so much value to your life because of the benefits that it helps you obtain whenever you take action. Now you get access to that over to the right. Okay. Now I hope you guys had enjoyed our conversation today. Again, I'm sorry for the tech issues we had earlier. Thanks for sticking around. And I just wanted to let you guys know that, making a good, solid impression online is very important to your business. And, Brandon and I are here 6 days a week so that we can help share information with you that can help you put yourself one step closer to the lifestyle you're attempting to build for yourself, right? And so every day when we come here and we share with you these tips, these strategies, these tools, these products that we know for personal experience can help you get the results you're looking to have. We do this because, straightforward, we love you guys. We may not have met you. Some of you we have, some of you we haven't, but we love you. And we're here to help you succeed. We're here to work with people who have a big vision for themselves, who have a big dream, and imagine a lifestyle that's lived on their own terms. For us, it's being able to be stay-at-home, present parents with our daughter and a growing family, and being able to spend time with our family doing what we want, when we want, while helping other people do the same thing. You know your dream, you know your vision. I don't know it yet. But I can promise you that when you take advantage of the opportunity over on the right and you start working with us, that your dream will become our dream, and we will do everything in our power so long as you're willing to put in your effort to help you reach that dream. But it all starts with making a decision and making a realization that you want something more for yourself. And then taking action on doing what you need to do to put yourself in position to have exactly what you want. Now, we're offering you a risk-free opportunity with what we have to share with you on the right, because with the blog, if in 14 days you realize you don't see the value, you get your money back. With the Epic Story Funnel, if you don't like it, if you don't see the value in it, if you don't see that, if it's not what you expected and more, then within a reasonable time frame, you'll get your refund. But I can guarantee you it's not going to happen, because when you do take advantage of it and you check out those products, you'll see it's exactly what you've been missing. It's that puzzle piece you've needed. And we can say that from experience. So stop staying still. Make a decision to do something different. And just take a leap of faith. Now, if you're on Facebook, this information will be at the bottom. You can private message me for the link for the Epic Story Funnel, and I can send that to you personally. And I hope you guys got a lot of value out of today. I'll see you guys tomorrow.